Hey YouTube and my subscribers, JC18904 here with a new video on my Traxxas Ford F-150 Raptor SVT. Today I'll be showing you how to lubricate the sealed bearings inside your wheels on the front for the hub carriers. Now what you want to do is just simply take your body off. It's much easier this way. Next, you want to take your wheel off. And the tools you will need for this is your wheel lug wrench, a 2.0 Allen wrench, and WD-40. Now take your wheel off. Now I got Integrity 09 hub carriers on the front of my truck, so this may be just slightly different looking than the stock Traxxas ones. After you get your wheel off, you want to make sure that your nut is in real good shape before you put it back on, because some of these self-locking nuts I got on mine ain't working right for some reason, like this one. But just make sure that you get them off easy with no trouble. They can be a pain. Now if they got Loctite on, it'll make it even worse. There we go. Then after you get your wheel off, you want the nut removing wrench for the front wheel. It looks like this tool right here. Looks like this. After you get that off, you can take this gray nut here off. What you want to do is push this down between there like this and just pry back. Then it should come loose, and it looks like this on the back, and that's what the nut looks like, the holds the wheel on. And you can lay it in order if you want. Then there's a pin behind that, little silver pin, looks like that. Then you have a washer that comes off, little thin washer. Then the pin should slide out, and it looks like this. Then you can take your 2.0 and your wheel lug wrench again. What you want to do is take this nut here off. You don't have to take this off, but sometimes you have to get this pin out on the bottom, which I ain't going to do it now because these here are much better than the stock Traxxas ones to get the pin out. So all I'm going to do is only take this nut here off, so that all I do is pull my hub carrier off after I take this 2.0 Allen wrench screw out down here on the bottom, as you can see. But this here you need for your wheel lug wrench, you need the smaller end on there. Then you want your 2.0 Allen wrench for the screw on the bottom. You just simply want to take and just hold the Allen wrench and turn the wheel lug wrench, might be better. Now if it's real tight, it's going to be kind of hard to do, so I might try and turn the Allen wrench. It can be a pain to do because these things will tighten up. There, come loose. And after you get this locking nut off, if you got aluminum hub carriers, the pin and the screw and stuff might stick. So after you take that nut off, it should look like this little tiny nut. Then your turnbuckle should come off, and then your hub carrier should turn like this. So what you want to do next, take your 2.0 Allen wrench again and take this screw off down here at the bottom. And after you get this screw loose, you can take the screw out and make sure when you put it back in that you clean it first, because they can get dirt in there on all the screws that are exposed to dirt. Then there's only a couple threads. Then the pin should slide out. As you can see, it's dirty, so that's going to have to be cleaned. Then the hub carrier should come out. Now these are the Integrity 09s that I told you about in my previous video. As you can see, they're slightly turned right there in the center to give you better handling. And trust me, they do, and they're worth the money. And as you can see, it's real short stem, so you get better handling and stuff like that. But it's real lightweight. There's not much weight to it. You can use the original bearings of the stock Traxxas hub carriers. So what you want to do next, take a 2.5 Allen wrench or maybe a small flathead screwdriver and push out the bearings. Now they can be a pain to push out, so what I'm going to do is just simply start with the front one, see if it comes out first. As you can see, it pops right out. If you do this right, they will come out. The bearings look like this. They're waterproof, but I recommend using the WD-40 as it says in the owner's manual, because if you look, it's got dirt on it. So what you want to do is simply clean that. Now the bearings will fit on either side. You don't have to worry about getting them mixed up. Then all you have to do is take your Allen wrench and slide it through this side of the hub carrier to push the back one out. I use this end of the Allen wrench, and it should slide right out, as you can see. I mean, hardly no trouble to push that out. Now if it sticks and you have trouble getting it out, next time put either heavy duty car grease in it, like Champion car grease, or maybe use some kind of WD-40 or 3-in-1 oil to coat this side of the bearing and the inside of the hub carrier. I usually use grease because it helps. Make sure you clean this out too, because it can be dirty. This one seems to be pretty clean, but I'm going to clean it anyway. So all I'm going to do is simply take a handkerchief, wrap it up to where it fits the end of my finger, then push that end into the hub carrier and turn it a couple of times to just make sure that it's clean. It appears to be clean, so I want to do the other side now. And after you've done this, you can just wipe off the whole outside of the hub carrier, and it should be pretty clean inside. Now next you want to do the bearings. Now what you want to do for these is take and lay it down on a handkerchief, like fold it in half or something, and take all your parts and put it on top of that handkerchief, like the washer, the pin, and the wheel pin that goes through the hub carrier, and the pin that holds the hub carrier on, and lay all that stuff on top of the handkerchief. To just simply start with the bearings is what I usually do. lay them face down on one side and just rub each one with the handkerchief. And after I've done that, make sure both sides are clean. Make sure there's no dirt on them, because dirt can get in there around this pin, because it pushes in through the back. So just want to make sure they're clean on both sides. Now if your bearings aren't turning very good on the truck, you either got your wheels too tight or your bearings are shot. And if you hear it like grinding when it's turning, that's probably time to get new bearings for your truck. Tower Hobbies, you can get like so many of these in a bundle. So you have like, I think 2 for the front, each front side, 2 for each back side. So that's probably 2, 4, 6, 8 bearings for all the wheels. So what you want to do is just simply take WD-40 and spray all over them bearings and all over the pieces that come off the truck for the hub carrier. And after you spray that bearings a couple of times, rub the WD-40 in on them. And take your finger, go all around the edge of it like this. Just simply take a little bit more, go all over that bearing. Even turn your hands a couple of times. Make sure it's clean inside here too. After you get that one pretty much clean, you set it aside and clean the other bearing. Just simply spray it all around on each face of the bearing. They'll be facing in and out towards the truck. Then run your finger all over the chrome piece that's on the outside of the bearing, because you do not want this to be sticking inside the hub carrier, because it makes a pain to get out. So after you get the bearing pretty much lubricated, just spray WD-40 on the handkerchief when the bearing's on there. Just rub that bearing in that WD-40. You can also take a plastic container that you don't use and you just got it laying around. I recommend just getting an old butter bowl or dip for chips or something and clean it out after you're done, and just simply put a little bit of WD-40 on the bottom of it. It's much easier to do it that way. I'm just doing it the quick way, because I'm going to be running this thing here again real soon. So it ought to be pretty clean now. It ought to look pretty clean like this on each side. What you want to do next, take your hub carrier, spray WD-40 all inside of that on both sides, and let it soak. Try to keep it from running out. Run it back and forth like this, so you get all around inside that. Just let it sit there and quit bubbling. As you can see, it's probably bubbling right now. Then just make sure that's wet in there. Now, to put these bearings back in, what you want to do is hold this side of the hub carrier up, take the bearing, and make sure that it's wet and the inside of the hub carrier is wet. I want to take my finger and put it on the bottom of the hub carrier. I'm going to fill it up with WD-40. Then I'm going to take this bearing and lay it flat on top of the hub carrier. Now you'll feel it slide down in there a little bit. Now what you want to do is simply take your thumb and push straight down. and it should slide in real easy with no problem. Now just simply turn that bearing like this to work in that WD-40. Now same thing for the other side. Just put your hand over the hole like this. Just put your thumb over that too. Then fill this up. Now you can get WD-40 in cans like this with an easy tip nozzle, or you can get it where you fold that nozzle down and it looks like that. You can get that at your local AutoZone. Now take the other bearing and simply put it on top of that, and it'll slide down a little bit, and just push it all the way in. And just simply turn it like this to work in that WD-40. I mean, it should turn real easy. Shouldn't have to strain to turn it. I mean, look at that. It turns real good. I just dropped it because it's saturated with WD-40, but it should turn real good. That's just my finger slowing it down because I just don't want to let the bearing fly out of there. I'm working in that WD-40. After you work that WD-40 in really good, take your pin and come out of the center of the hub carrier, like this pin here. Take and clean it with the handkerchief with the wet spot that has WD-40 on it. Make sure that you get this lip right here, because there's dirt in there and you do not want that dirt to mess up the bearing. So what I'm going to do is take a Q-tip and simply run over that to get that dirt off. And after you get that dirt off, take the pin, slide it through about halfway. Then what I'm going to do is take WD-40 again and spray it in around that pin. Because what I'm doing is keeping it lubricated, so next time I don't have to fool with it. I just take it apart, clean it, then let the bearing soak. Just slowly let the WD-40 work in around there, because what it's going to do is help protect this when it runs in the water. Then just let that slide down on there and just turn this pin. Now it should turn real easy. It should turn real smooth. You should not hear any kind of clicking or cracking from the bearings. And what you want to do is slide the back of the pin up, then spray more WD-40 in around the back side of this pin, then push it up and turn it some more, because what it's going to do is help protect the back side of this bearing. So I'm going to rub WD-40 all over it to make sure that the dirt does not get in there. It should turn even more smoother. Look how good that turns. Then what I'm going to do next is clean the little tiny pin that come off of that stem that I just cleaned. Just want to make sure this pin is not dirty. Next, clean your washer that come off. Looks like that. You want to clean this washer. Make sure that it's not bent or cracked, which appears to be real great shape. Make sure there ain't no dirt on it. So what I want to do next is simply take and put this washer back on. Now what you want to do is make sure that that washer's on there. There ain't no dirt in there. Now take the little tiny pin that come off of that, slide it through this little hole that's on this pin here, and what that does is it holds that on there. As you can see, you can let go of it now. So all I want to do is make sure that pin's even on each side. Should look pretty much something like this. And what you want to do is just set that down. Now take this nut right here and make sure you get this clean in that groove right there, because dirt can mess this up too by not going on right. Then just make sure there ain't no dirt inside of that. It's alright if it's scarred up, as just because it's probably got dirt or something on it. Now what I want to do next is simply line this seam here on the back of this up with that pin. Now just make sure your pin's still even, and simply line that groove up with that pin. Then after you line it up, push straight down. You should hear a click when that goes on. It should turn real good. It's alright if it turns like this. You should not hear no cracking. You should be able to hear the bearings turning. You just want to work that WD-40 in. That's inside the hub carrier. It should turn even a little bit smoother. Then what you want to do is just simply make sure you wipe off all the excess WD-40. Real good. Then after you're done with the handkerchief, set it aside. Now what you want to do next is put it back in this groove right here that's inside your hub carrier. Looks like this. Now you want this screw to come out of there. You want to clean that too before you put that back in. Make sure it's not dirty. It appears to be pretty clean. Now just simply slide that in until you can see it in the bottom hole. What you want to do, make sure you put your hub carrier back on to where it looks like this. Now take, and once you get that hole lined up, slide that screw up into that hub carrier, and take your 2.0 Allen wrench and you can screw that back in. Now there's only a couple of threads on this. Now if you want, if the inside of your turnbuckle piece here that holds like everything in, if that's dirty, go ahead and clean it. Mine wasn't dirty. So what I'm going to do is just simply screw this back in with the 2.0 Allen wrench. Now after you get this screw back in, it should tighten up. After you tighten that up, you can take your turnbuckle and slide it back down onto the screw that it come off of. I'll show you what that looks like. Just simply make sure that this screw's tight. You do not want it to come loose. when you're racing or anything like that. Make sure this screw up here is tight, this one down here, because jumping and stuff can make these come loose. Mine appear to be pretty tight still. I put Loctite on them, that's why. Next off, you want to take the nut that come off the back part of this that holds your hub carrier on. Simply take your hub carrier, line it back up, bring it back over, and that should slide right down on there. Then take this little nut that you took it off with the wheel lug wrench and screw it back on. It goes on with this piece here on top, that little lip. So what you want to do, if you can screw it on with your finger so far, that's great. And after you get that screwed on so far with your fingers, you can begin to screw it back on with your wheel lug wrench. Remember that it's this little end over here, not this big end. It's simply screw it back on. Should not have any problem screwing this on. And after you get this, you can begin to put your wheel back on. And after you get your wheel back on, you want to make sure this is tight too, because you do not want any slack in your steering. Now if you got Loctite on this 2.5 Allen wrench screw with your aluminum hub carriers, it will not come loose because the Loctite will hold it, and it should be pretty tight to where you can't turn it no more by hand. And you take your wheel, make sure you line this pattern on this here up with that on the back of your wheel. You want to make sure that you do not over torque this. Your wheel should turn real smooth. Should not have any trouble. Should not hear any grinding. And just stop your wheel. Now hold your wheel onto that gray nut. Take your wheel lug wrench and screw that nut back on that screw. You want to make sure this nut is not damaged. I just got a new one to put on there. Same size as what the old one was. I have nuts off a different RC car of mine. Same kind of nut. Now, make sure that wheel does not slide off this gray thing back here. You can look back here and see it. Just simply hold that on there. After you get this tight, do not over torque it. It's easier to use a ratchet on this. I can't remember what size the ratchet was because I used it on something else. I lost the socket to it. So I'm back to this again. Now you will just turn it real smooth. Just slowly unloosen this until you get to where it just spins real easy. Needs a little bit more, because you do not want that too tight at all. Just turn it both ways.